the color.
Well, let's recap for those of you that did anybody miss the first seminar? Okay. What we shared in the first seminar, quite frankly, talk, was really, well, you know what? Why don't some of you fill them in? What did we talk about? What did you get? What did you learn from the first session? What was a nugget that you took away for the new people?
For committee people to have a role.
Okay. Okay, that's standing ovation.
And understand the role.
Say again?
Understand the role.
Understand the roles, okay? We talked about roles and...
Like their role. Like their role.
Like their role. I thought you said live pheromone.
Well, that too.
You have to like your role, yes.
Understand the impact that you make without even knowing.
Right. Understanding that anything we're doing on our committee is having an impact that we'll never know till glory, quite frankly. But it's an impact. Ed?
Every committee member is on 2 subcommittees.
Yeah, what are they?
Prayer
and leader care.
Prayer and leader care, right? There you go. So if you're looking for a role, you're automatically on those, right? Because the scriptures call us to pray, and then we have to love the team that we're caring. We have to care for our leaders and our staff, and yeah.
We need workers, not all hat, no cattle people.
You like that, huh? You know what I mean by that too, right? The ones that sit in the, you ever, this may be you, so don't take it wrong, but they sit in a committee meeting and they go, hey, you ought to do this. This is a good idea. Oh, good. What do you think? Will you run that? Well, is anybody else want to volunteer for that? I just think it's a good idea. I don't want to do it. So, hey, all hat, no cattle. We don't want those. We want people who are going to be workers, doers. Good.
When we're operating in our sweet spot, we're breathing life into our area director.
Right. Do you remember what I meant by that for those that weren't here? What does that mean to work in our sweet spot? Anybody. It doesn't have to just be you.
What you love to do.
Yeah, what you love to do. Right? If you care well, if you're a gift of exhortation, you walk alongside your staff person, do that. If you're a fundraiser, do it. It's what you're good at. You know, you make calls. If you know how to, if you're organized and you can organize a banquet, do that. Do that. That breathes life into the staff people that are trying so hard to get to that school and not feel like a fool every time they're there, but to reach every kid. And because their regional directors challenge them. When you go to the school, what did we normally do when we went to the school? We'd go down the same hallway, the one where the most kids liked us. We'd never. This hallway was, I don't know those kids. I'm not going down that way. That's when your boss comes in and says no. And Jesus says, go down that hallway. That's the second mile. We talked about going the second mile. That's the second mile. That's where the fun is. That's where life is, going down there. That's where the extravagant living and the life and the trust comes. And that's when Jesus shows up. Anything else? Yes.
Go the second mile.
Go the second mile. Right. First mile is the one we were supposed to do. Roman soldier taps us on the shoulder. For those of you that were here, I was so excited because God had put it on my heart to talk about roles. That's really cool, by the way. I'm easily distracted, but those are fluffy. Would you stand up so everybody can see those? Sorry. Squirrel! It's hard. But we talked about finding your role and getting involved, right? And so that was, even then I thought, well, this is good. I want people to know what their role is and I want them to get involved, but it wasn't enough. And it was on my heart to be a little bit more clear. How do we give 2020 vision to everybody in the room? And that's when, as to what their job is on the committee, what they want to do, and they have a game plan and a playbook for what it is we're asking them to do. That's where the playbook came from, and I'm excited to share it with you. It's such a new book that I'm still sort of learning how to teach it most effectively. Like, I want to just go line by line through it because I love it so much, but it is sort of, it's boring to a point because if you're not interested in that subcommittee, you'll be like, just get to the one I want. So I'm going to go through them slowly, but I am going to get through them to highlight it, because the idea from this moment, from our time here, whatever we have, the time we have left, is for you to hear some of this stuff and and just ask the Lord, and we'll pray in a second, but ask the Lord to impress it upon your heart. What is my role? Okay, I got you 2 years ago, find a role, but I still haven't found that role. What is my role? What am I good at? Where does my heart skip a beat when I hear about how I can serve? And then from that, you'll have a game plan, so you won't have the excuse, I just didn't know what to do. There was no clarity as to what you were asking me to do. Today, I'm going to hope to provide that clarity so that you can work in what I like to term as maximum efficiency. Because what were the two assumptions? First one is that you guys all have a passion for kids and the ministry. And what's the second assumption? You don't have a whole lot of time. So I don't want to waste your time with you not knowing what to do. I want to use the time for maximum efficiency while you are serving our kids in our area and the plot of land that God has set before you, in which he says, go take every inch because I am with you. All right? So with that, open up to the first page. Everybody have one of these? Anybody need one? Right. Do we have any more? They were. Are the extras here? I got it. You need one.
We'll take one.
Anybody else need one? Here. Right over there. Is there you know what I brought? 10, 20, 30, 40. Oh, how many? Just one?
She needs one here.
All right, make up your mind, people. Just one over there? Okay. So if we look at the area, all right, well, real quick, business-wise, it's 1:50. What time are we supposed to be done?
7.
7 o'clock. I can go that long, so don't. 2:45? Okay, we shouldn't need a whole hour, because this is. I did say it. But doesn't it make you feel better when I say it? Although the credibility's gone now. Right. Thank you. That's saying we're always learning. Always learning. Okay. So if we look at our committee as a huddle, then we will, and don't go too far with the analogy, okay? Because it's not meant to go much further past that. When I first started, I was like, okay, so who would the coach be? And the people in the stands, who are they? No, here's a huddle. And the quarterback of the huddle is the area director, okay? Now, in football, so those of you who may or may not know football is irrelevant. You're going to learn it real quick as we go through it. In football, the quarterback plays what position? One position, right? Does the quarterback need to know, does he need to play receiver on the same play? No. Does he need to know where the receiver is going?
Yes.
Of course. If it's a running play, what does the quarterback need to know? Which way the running back's going, right? So if the running back's going this way, he's not going to hand it off over here. He's going to hand it off over here to the running back because he's going that way. What about the offensive line? The guys, the big guys, right? The behemoth-looking guys with no necks, right? Does the quarterback need to know what they're doing? You're darn right he needs to know. If they're blocking that way, he's not going to go this way. He'd get killed. Just ask RG3. Let's have a moment of silence for RG, please. Ooh, that hit. That's a little too soon. So he has to know, the quarterback has to know where everybody's going. Doesn't have to do it. Doesn't have to run that play, but he does have to. He doesn't have to know that position and play that position. He has to know where everybody is. Okay. So would you put a receiver at offensive guard? No, of course not. Remember, an offensive guard's a big lineman who's slow and can't move. Well, that's not true anymore. But you wouldn't do it. Would you put a running back at offensive line? Would you put an offensive lineman out at receiver?
No.
No. So our job on the committee and the coach's job in football is to put the players gifted for that particular position in that position. So if you're fast and you have good hands, they put you out at wide receiver. If you are fast, low to the ground, and hard to tackle, they're going to hand you the ball and make you the running back. All of this stuff relates almost perfectly to a young life area. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that? Just on first, okay. On your committee members, on your committee, you have members on that committee that are gifted in certain areas, Why in the past have we ever even thought, well, if they're great at this, and we know they're not great at that, why would we put them in that position? Remember, limited time, right? Heart for young life. So we wouldn't waste time. Now, I do understand in some committees they're small, so people do have to play different roles. And you know, hey, sometimes I didn't want to play tight end. I played tight end in high school. I wanted to be a receiver, but I was a little too big and a little too slow. But I had great hands. But the coach said, well, you should be tight end. And I couldn't block either, because you're supposed to block as a tight end and catch. So I wanted to play a certain position, but I had to play the one that I was best suited for as far as the coach needed. So there are times when you're playing maybe a little out of position, but the idea is you want to play the position that you're best gifted at. Is everybody on the same page? We have to start there, and if you're with me, then we can keep going. Makes sense? Okay. All right, so let's have some fun here, guys. Obviously, the goal is to get everybody off the bench, right? The proverbial bench of our committee, and into the huddle, on the team. Okay? Nobody wants to be useless, not useless, but not used, underused on a committee if you know that they can, because God can use anybody. So, the significance of the team, the basics are this. Success is accomplished only when we work together as a team. You can't have a receiver and a lineman cranking it out and nobody else. The play won't work. You won't score. You might have a little success on here and there, but it just can't happen. Everyone has a unique gift and a role. Maximum efficiency, I use that term a lot. Number 2, it's accomplished when everyone understands his or her part in the playbook. Area director's a quarterback. Area director needs to know the playbook, but can only be successful when utilizing others. And that's what I shared wherever you were. Was sitting over there. I can't see you guys because of the light. Oh, there you are. When you said, how did you burn your committee out? I didn't utilize any. No one was being utilized. I tried to do everything. I was the entrepreneur, so to speak, guy, and I thought, well, they hired me to come do everything. No, they didn't. They hired me here to build an area with them. Okay? Players can become excellent in their roles if they are set up for success. Therefore, the more we know the playbook, the better we are. Good huddle produces good results. Good results produce a larger fan base. A larger fan base produces community excitement. More community excitement produces more community involvement, and this parallels ministry almost exactly. If we as a team can huddle together and figure out a way to do our jobs the way we're supposed to do it, that frees our staff up and our leaders up for them to go out and build this awesome ministry or product or team or whatever, where kids are meeting Christ. And when kids meet Christ, adults start to take notice. Some even start to meet the Lord. And all of a sudden, the people from the cheap seats are going, I want to get closer to that now. You know, I want to be more a part of that. And that creates the community excitement. Same if you have a good football team. The better the football team, the more excitement there is in the community. You referenced by the 12th man out in Seattle. Those guys are rabid fans. The community excitement, they're winning. Life is good. Any Pittsburgh Steeler fans in the room?
Hey!
Right. You've had that 6 times. You know, Redskins 3 times. There's Baltimore 2 times. Right. Okay. So it parallels ministry exactly. So we have to, but it starts from a good huddle. No one truly succeeds unless everyone succeeds. That is a fact. Encourage each other, and all the more as you see the day approaching. You know, in young life, this is probably true of me. This is when you know it's time to move on. When you get to be a crotchety old staff, you start to grind an axe over everything. Your attitude sometimes can go, right? Because you feel like young life owes me a little bit. I've been doing this for a while. And that's not healthy. And I say, keep an eye out for that, for your staff. They need encouragement, and we need to encourage each other. It's always better to encourage one another than to discourage people. If you see somebody in your committee that's knocking it out of the park, this is for committee chairs mainly. If you see people that are knocking it out of the park with what they do, highlight them at a meeting. Create the virtue that this is what we're looking for. Not, you guys ought to do this, just highlight the people that are doing it. Show them that this is what gets affirmed up front. And that's what we want to do, is encourage each other. Highlight what makes us, what encourages others by the work that we're doing, by how we're serving. Does that make sense? Be great at that. Become excellent at encouraging it. Don't put each other down. Good results, and we always have a comment, anyway, I just know that apart from Christ, I can be awfully critical of people. It could be out of jealousy. They're doing it, I want to be the one doing it, so people pat me on the back. I don't know. But don't, maybe that's just a message for me. All right. Number 9, good results come from knowing the playbook and practicing them hard and often. Right? Any winning team practices often, every day, and they practice hard until they get it right. And a lot of times they don't like the coach because they make them do it over and over again. But there's a reason that the coach makes them do it over and over again. It's so they can hoist that little silver football up above their head in February and call themselves the champs, or whatever trophy it is for whatever sport. We have to practice like anything, even at the committee level. You can't just think that you're going to do your job once or twice a year and it's going to be excellent. It's something that we have to practice. It's something we have to continue to do over and over. Okay? So do that. As we go through it, that'll make more sense. So let's get started in the playbook here, shall we? Any questions so far? Yes.
One real quick one. I don't see motivation or attitude here. I heard you reference it.
Yeah.
But I don't see that here, and I think that's something that a committee chair has to be able to assess in potential.
Tell me what you mean by that, attitude.
Well, you could have somebody with all the skills, all the gifts, all the time in the world, but they have the wrong attitude. And you compare that to somebody who doesn't have as much gifts, doesn't have as much time, all those other things, a little bit less than that person, but they got the right attitude. Which is the better person for that subcommittee chair?
So significance of a team would be.
Well, I think it's up to the committee chair, maybe the area director, maybe jointly, to assess, that. And I think the committee chair on here, I'd like to see listed. You get one of your responsibilities. You get to know all of your potential and committee members well enough to be able to make those.
Know the team.
That's leadership.
Know the players. Is that what you're saying?
Know the players.
Yeah. I like that one. Yeah. Okay, good. See, this is a work in progress here. So write that down. Now listen, this is your copy. If committee chairs, if you want this, I have a PDF of this, something that you can have print, and you can also add. Listen, this is for my area, and add. I'm going to add this too. Know the players, because I love that, and that's the best part about, by the way, my job. I steal all your ideas and I take them around the country. I love that one, and it fits totally. But I can email all this stuff to you and make it your working document, like something that you can add to yourself that fits your individual area. Some of this stuff may not line up perfectly because this is Northern Virginia, our area. But what I would say is I do try to run through this principally. It's principle based, so it should fit Young Lives, Capernaum, all of that, because it's simply telling you those people that are serving and all that. You just need to clarify what it is you're asking them to do. If I could boil it all down, that's essentially it. Okay, so let's flip. When we're flipping to the committee chair, here's how I want you guys to look at it. It's real simple. So the committee chair is a position in the huddle, correct? You understand that? You're a position in the huddle, right? So what are the qualifications of that position? And that's on the left side. Gift of leadership, good time manager, good delegator, organized, respected, and godly. Okay? There may be more. If there are, write them down for your area, okay? But those are the basic ones. What are the goals? All right? One of the goals is support the area director. Well, how do you do it? Well, you would support them personally, spiritually, and professionally. All right, well, what are the plays to achieving those goals, Moose? Well, personal, and again, this could have been 20 pages, but you wouldn't want to read 20 pages. So there's a one-page cheat sheet. So if you see something in here that's left out, it's not because, well, it probably is because I didn't think of it, but it's not meant to be that many. It's just supposed to kind of whet the appetite. So get to know your staff person. Meet with them regularly. I meet with our guy 1 week before every committee meeting. We spend most of the time talking about sports, family, his walk, my walk, and I usually know what we're going to talk about in committee meeting because I run the committee meetings as every committee chair should. And we go over, like, what do we want to talk about in a committee meeting? Okay, so but we start by just getting to, not getting to know each other, but talking to each other, like, how you doing? How are the kids, man? Awesome. And just digging deep, building that friendship. Provide leadership, impart wisdom, develop a friendship. We also, one of the goals of committee chair is spiritually. Pray for the area director. Encourage him or her in their spiritual journey. Hold them accountable. Professionally. This is really true of young staffed areas, right? Give guidance to the area director in areas of time management. Let me tell you something. This is all professionalism 101 that we have the opportunity as committee chairs, right? Someday, if you're not a committee chair now, someday you might be. So this is all for every one of us. We have the privilege of shaping the professionalism of this person who could become one of the next world changers. And it would have started with us. And one of those areas is professionalism. Professionalism 101, as I like to call it. Right? Time management. Following up. Returning phone calls. The basics. Getting assignments done. Being early. If there's a 7 o'clock committee meeting, what time would the area director need to be there?
6:45?
Yeah, or if no one's setting up, it needs to be as early as it takes to set that room up and be the first one in the room. And 6:45 would probably easily be the first one in the room because we all usually show up right at that clock, especially if we have babysitters we got to organize. Be early. Teach them that. Teach them what it communicates when they don't. So I took over as committee chair 4 years ago. Poor area director. 7:38 committee meeting. I got there at 7 because I was excited. It's my first time as a committee chair after all my years of being on staff. He rolls in at like 7:25. There were already other committee members there. Now we had the meeting and everyone left, and I pulled him aside and I said, if I ever beat you to a committee meeting again, there's going to be hell to pay. By you not showing up on time, by you not being the first one here, you've just communicated to everyone else in the room that this isn't important. And we're all here serving you and the Lord. We're here doing this for you. You better get your rear end here first. That's professionalism 101. And we as committee chairs and others on the committee want to hold them accountable to that because they lead us. We want our leader to be professional. Got it?
How's that go over?
Well, I'm much bigger than him, so it went over just fine.
Clarify?
Yeah.
Okay, so the meeting was at 7 or
30.
7:30? 7:30. You got there at 7. He came at 7:25.
Yeah, but if he'd have come at 7:15, he'd have been fine. But other people had already showed up.
Okay.
But he really wasn't late.
No, he wasn't late, but he needs to be the first. Yeah. No, I know, but that if other people beat you there, you just need to know what that communicates. You're right.
You know how you solve the problem? You just have them to dinner.
Yeah, right. Whoever's hosting it, and we do in our area, we change the place for committee meeting every month, and that person hosting it is in charge of a dessert afterwards. But yeah, we actually have a half-hour prayer time before every committee meeting because our prayer chair thought, hey, what if, because we never have enough time to pray during the meeting because we're doing this and that. She said, why don't we get whoever wants to come, just come a half hour early, and we're not going to chit chat and talk and high five and talk about sports or whatever. We're going to pray for a half an hour, and then when the first person comes, we'll amen, and let's get to the meeting. Now we do pray a lot in our meeting, but it's great time. I mean, we get there a half hour early, we pray. So just an idea. Did I answer your question? Okay. So then, I mean, again, I don't want to go through all of those, but job of a committee chair, lead the committee, raise the budget, recruit new members. It's all right there. Now, the committee chair doesn't go at it alone. Obviously, you also have subcommittee chairs helping you everywhere, but players that help you would be, and that's on the right, the other players on the team that would help you would be those subcommittee chairs and staff. It is entirely appropriate to have a staff on a subcommittee, particularly if that's where one of their gifts are. Remember, you want to use their gifts too. You want them to go be with kids, but if they're organizationally gifted and they want to do, when they're not at school and they're not doing stuff with kids, if they want to do some office-y type stuff. What am I trying to say? Administration stuff. It's entirely okay to do that, but never in place of kid work and such. Does that make sense? All right, so let's keep cruising along here. Banquet chair. This is another position. Notice it fits all on one page, but this one just barely. This would be the biggest one. This would be the one.
Skip prayer.
I did? Stand by. Thank you. Prayer chair. I got sausage fingers. Sorry about that. Pretend to not work right. All right, what are the qualifications of a prayer chair? Gifted prayer warrior, able to inspire others to pray. Good at getting prayer needs out to the team. Respected and organized. One of the goals. Okay, what are the goals? One is to unite the committee in prayer. So what are the plays? How do we achieve that goal? Well, maybe we'll ask for a weekly or monthly prayer request from the committee, staff, and Friends of Young Life. So in our area, we have this thing called Friends of Young Life. I think I probably talked about it 2 years ago. So I'm not expecting you to remember it, so I'll give you a quick refresher. And it's probably different than the senders, but the Friends of Young Life are people who used to be on committee, or they'd like to be on committee, they just can't commit to being at every committee meeting. And in our area, if you can't commit to being at every committee meeting, obviously if you're sick or have something that's different, then we don't want you to actually serve on the actual committee. We'll put you on the Friends of Young Life, which is like committee light. So we're not frustrated that you're not showing up, but you're still doing stuff. Because at our committee, we want to, so remember how if the area director shows up late, what that communicates to us? What does it communicate to the area director when the committee only shows up every so often? And I don't ever want to communicate to our staff person that we're not totally on board. So the people that don't show up, you're going to have to go on Friends of Young Life. Not a bad thing. We just want to be careful what we communicate to our staff or servant. Does that make sense? Does that sound fair? Right? It's not going out, that's not being mean. We have a place for them. But the uniting the committee in prayer.
Do you actually track that and
I do. Yeah, I do as a committee chair.
I figured that based upon some of the other.
Yeah. Now, having said that, I'm a people-pleasing, non-confrontational wuss. So it's hard for me to go, dude, you're not showing up, man. What's up? So what I normally do is I'll do an email or a phone call and just say, hey, gosh, I appreciate that you love this ministry so much. You look like you're real busy. Are you okay if I shift you from active committee over to the Friends of Young Life? And when your schedule frees up, man, we want you back. We just want you to be able to be. That's how I handle it. Maybe that's the right way to handle it. I don't know. Maybe I need to be tougher. I don't know. But for me, that's my personality. So that's how I would shift them over. Because we don't want to lose them. Because our Friends of Young Life, like if we're doing a 100-foot banana split club, we send an email out to the Friends of Young Life. Hey, if you guys want to help us with this, we need scoopers, banana peelers, banana cutters, people to spread chocolate sauce, all that sort of thing. And the Friends of Young Life are the people that show up to do that. And some committee. So we utilize them. They come to the banquet. They come to the golf tournament. They just don't come to the monthly meetings. All right, well, that got a little off topic. That's my fault. They send out prayer requests to the same team. They organize a prayer tree network. Again, my committee doesn't do all of these, so don't think I'm giving you like some super committee. I'm giving you some things that work, right, that might help you achieve the goal of uniting the committee in prayer. And then one that Ty Saltzgiver at National wanted me to add. Help areas join in Young Life's National Prayer Days. First Tuesday of October and March, which I didn't know we had those. So, mark your calendar. Here's a big one, prayer chair, determine what the strongholds are in your area. Boy, we have a list at every committee meeting, we have a list, and we have a list of the strongholds that are keeping us from reaching that next school, reaching the kids, and we'll pray through it during that 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, we'll get the strongholds out. And we will go before the Lord and figure out a way to ask and beg the Lord to send the Archangel Michael, if he has to whoop that stronghold, because we want to reach kids because time is running out. So figure out what the strongholds are. You can do that as a committee, but figure out what they are and then and agree on it, send that list out, Be specific, organize prayer gatherings, be creative, meet a half an hour. There's the meet half an hour before each meeting. Report on answered prayer. You know, I don't know why. I'm sure everybody does this, but again, C student here, I didn't think of this until recently. We have and you guys will remember this from 2 years ago probably, our prayer chair is the same guy. He's a cross between like ZZ Top and a hillbilly looking, just big beard, massive, hairy 70s throwback, but loves Jesus, total hippie. And he's our prayer guy. He rallies us around Christ. And he does a great job of every week, he just sends an email into us. Send in the prayer requests and I'll send them out. He's not thinking them up. He's asking us to think them up. And he'll get 5, 6, or 7 every week, you know. But then he keeps them. And then, you know, when something is answered, he'll go, hey, just at the committee meeting, because he has a slot every committee meeting for a prayer update, he'll share, hey, we prayed 6 months ago that we would get 2 new leaders at Stonebridge High School. We got 3. Praise the Lord. You know, we stop, we pray, we thank the Lord. We do that after every subcommittee update. But we wouldn't know that unless somebody recorded those prayer requests and followed up on them. Now, does it change the way you think about prayer when you know, gosh, God did answer that? What if the only thing God ever did were the things we asked for? Would that change the way we pray? Of course. And so it's good to have that prayer chair organizing us in that regard. Look, I'm not a prayer warrior. Isn't that terrible for me to say that? I'd rather go try to do it. My wife is a prayer warrior. Praise God for her. I see her in our closet when I'm going to get dressed. She's in there on the ground, on her knees, and she's praying. And it makes me feel like a pagan. But I pray, but she prays. You know? And that is what God wants us to do, however, whether it's that or whether it's me praying on the way to work, is praying for these strongholds and these kids so that he can do immeasurably more than all we can. I can imagine a lot, but he gives immeasurably more than that. So uniting us in prayer. Any questions on the prayer chair? Who are the players that can help the prayer subcommittee? Now listen, only one person can chair it. And you might think, well, we already have a prayer chair, so there's nothing for me. No, that's wrong. Look at the players. Any committee member can be on the prayer subcommittee. So you have a position. You're on the prayer team. A staff can be on there, leaders, really any believer in the community that loves kids, believes in the ministry of young life. All right, banquet. How are we doing so far, okay? I see some yawns. I'm hoping that's just because you just ate. Okay. I won't take that personal, Ed. I'm just kidding.
You saw that? You saw that?
I'm good. I'm good. Hey, I'm a parent now. Parents see everything. Banquet chair. What's the qualifications of a banquet chair? Able to lead people. Attention to detail. That's a good one. Organized. A good delegator. Clear communicator of vision. Creative, proactive, and one I left off there, I don't know how to phrase it, but you'll know it when you see it. You don't want to have a tyrant, necessarily. That person who doesn't listen but barks out orders, that's sort of what we have right now on ours. And we have to put out fires often. And they don't listen. I mean, they don't. I had a great idea. They just, so, I don't know how to phrase that,
Gracious.
but just
I think it's gracious.
Gracious.
be gracious. Thank you. That's good. I'm gonna have that. That's good. IOUS. Capital G. Okay. Yes, hyphen. All right. What are the goals? Well, plan and execute a banquet. What are the plays? Determine the goals of the banquet, how many people we'd like to be at our banquet, how much is our overhead, what kind of food, decorations, blah, blah, blah. So our goal is 200 people. Well, what are the plays to try to get 200 people? There they are. Have every committee member to commit to filling a table. You know, how many people here have more than 5 people on their committee? Raise your hand. More than 5 people on your total committee? Less than 5 people. Well, everybody had to raise their hand at one point. Was I not clear on that one? If you have more than 5 people on your committee, raise your hand. If you have more than 10 people on your committee, raise your hand. Okay. If you just had your committee people alone fill one table, that's 10 times every amount of committee members, right? So then all you have to do is go outside of that and get kids' parents, get a pastor's table together, go around and figure out how are we going to get 20 tables of 10, or how many ever tables of 8, that's math, someone else can figure that out, to get 200 people. Okay, delegate that out to somebody to ask the kids, confirm and meet with all table hosts and have an information meeting. Are there more things to do to get 200 people there? Yes, but I didn't want to do 5 pages. I'm keeping it simple. Okay, so you're wondering, well, this is what we do. Good. Add that to yours so that you can, because remember, at the end of this, when you're gone from your time on Young Life Committee, you want to be able to hand your playbook back in to the next person so that they can pick it up and go, what did she do? She was so good. Oh, that's what she did. That's not so hard. I can do that. Set time frames, organize sponsorships, pre-banquet reception. We have that at ours where this year is different because it's a 25-year reunion, so we're having all the old alumni come an hour early where we're going to have a little special something. But you could do that at any banquet, really. An hour beforehand, just have certain donors that have been giving for a long time, or a way to honor certain people. Have a pre-banquet reception. You have somebody organizing that. The players on this one could be any committee member can assist the banquet chair. People not on the committee but love and understand Young Life can also help. Staff and leaders can help. So there's a lot of people that can help on the banquet subcommittee position. Any questions?
There's one comment. This is probably one of the most overwhelming jobs.
Pages, yeah.
Based on my experience.
Slow down on it?
No.
Okay.
I'm not critical of that at all.
Okay.
Just the one thing I would say is I think it's important to have a very motivated person in this job who's able to get done stuff through others, okay, obviously. The other thing that I think is important is that for this kind of a job especially, that as the area director or the committee chair, encourage this person to just commit to 1 year or 2 years.
That's a great
You know what I mean? Because I've seen it where this person never gets a break. They can't get out of their job because they do it so well. But if you could say to somebody,
right,
I only want you for a year or 2 years, that's all.
Okay, so
so have some limitation so they're not overwhelmed with, and I can't do that because I saw what happened to the last guy.
That's right.
I never got out.
Give them an out.
That's great. So try to get a 2-year commitment out would be great. And the other thing is at the very bottom it says, raise up your replacement. That's a goal. So whenever you're doing it, you have a vice president with you or a B in case. Case in point, and then you have your hand up?
Yeah.
A case in point, my wife, about 5 years ago, ran our banquet. Her father passed away like a month before the banquet. Well, he went in the hospital and passed away actually after the banquet, but he was in the hospital leading up to that and on death's bed. So my wife was like, but we had people there to do everything for her because she set it up to have people help her. So that's what I mean. So raise up your replacement, but have somebody work. You can't do it alone. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
You actually kind of stepped into my answer or my question. From a best practice standpoint, having a vice chair, is it good to have 2 in each of these positions, a spearheader and
I think so. I mean, I think we always work on the assumption that the Lord may take us home, please, any moment now, right? And if I go, where I'm going is great, but somebody's got to fill my shoes. I might as well be prepping them now. That's the way I always.
What I've seen happen really in that regard is that you get 2 people who work well together, say, look, we'll commit both of us for 2 years. I'll be the chair for the first year. I'll rotate to co-chair the second year. And the other guy goes from co-chair, or like Al, to co-chair to chair. And do the same thing with even the banquet chair.
Right.
That gives you 2 years that you're solid, solid as we know in life, but solid. And then everybody knows that time period so that plans can be made for year 3 and 4. What happens then? I think it's it's better to have that knowledge and approach it that way.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think when you look at it this way, what you've laid out is pretty overwhelming. And we went to a different model. We have a totally different banquet committee.
Mhm.
And so all of us is split up between 6 people.
Yeah,
And then the committee, because we found our committee was just, they were doing all the other stuff, and then this was just getting exhausting them.
right.
And so now, the banquet committee is a great thing, because when we have it, you say, hey, I want you to give your all to Young Life for 4 months. And then you're done, and you produce this great thing, it's great success, and I'll throw you a great dinner, and then you go split for the next 8 months, and I'll call you again.
Right.
And they love that.
Right.
It's people who wouldn't maybe be able to make a commitment for the whole year, but love just,
Yeah, I mean, I think those players, that's the second group of people not on the committee, or they are on the committee, I guess. You can have them on. And here's what I would tell you too. So this is what I came up with, right? But keep this, I mean, listen, I just got back from Alaska last year, where the committee, ready for this? The committee serves its area. You know how far away their area is? 8 hours away. They just got the good news when I was there that someone is going to give them a free, like one of those planes that you'd see would go down in an old movie. They get a free plane ride from their town to the village where this area is, and they get to go once a month. And that's so. I mean, you look at stuff like this, and they're going, "This is." So what I would say is, this is sort of a garden variety committee makeup on average based on what most of Young Life is doing. What I would say is, if you're doing something different, find a blank page and make it a position, right? Don't just be limited to what you see in here, because this is my area. Make a new position, but whatever you do, have the qualifications, the goals, the plays to reach those goals. So even if you have to put this on 3 separate pages, like you had said, you had different, or 6 different, whatever. If you have to do it on different pages, make it a position and put it in your playbook, because that's the thing because that group is gonna be gone years from now, and the new group may not wanna do it that way. The new group may wanna do it differently, or they may wanna do it exactly the same, but they'll need a playbook for it, so that they're not recreating the wheel. Now, they'll take their gifts and their experiences and tweak it, as we all will. You're probably looking at this going, that's good, but I got a great idea. We'll do it. And I trust that the Lord is speaking to you on this at the heart level, at where you're gifted the most, to be able to turn what I put in here, in some of the areas I'm not gifted in, into something much sweeter looking than what I have. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, I just have a question.
Yeah.
Just like, because I love this is awesome, and I love how you just like have bullet points for each position. But just even thinking of the banquet, I don't know about other people, but first like it's an overwhelming like event or whatever fundraiser,
Yeah.
and there, I don't know if it's out there, but some way to come a place where you could all like put our ideas, what works well, what doesn't work well with our,
Yeah.
what works with our banquet, what hasn't worked, and just thoughts and ideas from other people, would be great.
Yeah.
Because we just kind of do it and we feel like it's working, it doesn't work, or,
Right.
but some place like that we can pool our thoughts for ideas and
Yeah, that's right.
brainstorm, like, I don't know if that's.
Are you asking me if I have them, or
Well,
if you're
is it
saying?
out there? Is there a way we could do it? Or
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, when you first said that, my first thought was maybe we let Casey know that, because that might be something Casey can say to, because in our region, we have a committee. Now, you probably have a geographical huge area, whereas we have little DC and Northern Virginia. So it's easier, but once a quarter, we have the committee chairs get together, and that's what we'll talk about, stuff like that. But it's not the banquet subcommittee chair.
Right.
I mean, so my first thought is there's gotta, that's a great question. It might be best to ask Casey, hey, one of the things we learned in the seminar here was we want to have a place to bounce ideas off,
Put it on the website. Put it on, Young Life's website or whatever,
Yeah, and I bet they have one. I don't tinker around on Young Life's website much, but do you have access to it?
I do, but I mean, I just don't. I don't
Yeah, check it out. They literally have everything. Now, some stuff is, but there's a lot on there, and you can
Right.
sift through what you think might work or
Right.
not.
And well, they're just updated too, because
Yeah.
it's a good thing to, like, some of it.
That's
might
right.
be,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, any other questions on banquet? Banquet is in most areas, banquet is the #1 fundraiser that we have. And a committee meeting about 4 months out from the banquet. And at every committee meeting, we rank the updates from subcommittees based on their importance. And the banquet gets primary update time at our committee meetings for 4 months leading up to the banquet, meaning after the devotion, after whatever worship we might do, and sometimes we don't worship with music, we just read the scriptures and pray and encourage each other, or ask a question, you know, like they do in campaigners. And then a kid will give a testimony every month, and then the first thing we'll do is the biggest thing that is on our plate, and they get the largest slot of time. So that's what I would say is how you might want to model how you prepare in a committee meeting based on the importance of the upcoming event. But the banquet is one of the biggest ones, so make sure you're giving it plenty of time and starting very, very early so you have time to get the bad ideas out of the way, so to speak, right, and gather your team. But provide clarity. This is supposed to provide clarity for what you're going to ask your team to do. Because if you don't tell them what you want to do, they're not going to help very much. You know, they're going to just wait for you to tell them what to do. Whereas here they go, oh, I can do this. Hey, I saw on that sheet. Now again, you might want to recreate this and tailor it to your own area, but this should provide you a pretty good blueprint for getting started. Okay? 2:30, need to be done in 15 minutes. We will be. I'm about done listening to myself, that I can assure you. TDS, all right? TDS stands for touchdowns. It really doesn't, although it could work because of the huddle, but it doesn't. And we talked about it a little bit. I won't go over it again in terms of the thanking donors series. I think you guys all understood that. Many of you came up to me afterwards and said, hey, Moose, I really like that idea. It is, I didn't tell you this, I think I told Jim at our table. Where's Jim? Right here. I think I told you we were having lunch. That now when I make my calls, I have a couple people when I say, hey, thank you, our golf tournament was awesome. Thanks for sponsoring a hole. Just want to let you know we raised $20,000 at our golf tournament. And because of that, kids are going to be impacted in in Loudoun County. And he goes, that's awesome, Moose. Hey, do you need anything else? Do you need anything more? No, I'm just calling to say thanks, man. It blows people away because when you call and you're going to talk about Young Life and then you get into the giving and thank you and the giving, they're waiting. All right, got it, good, great kids, great. How much? When that never comes, it's like, I love that. That's building a relationship. That's a no. We go to the school with no strings attached, right? That's what we say when we go meet with kids. It's not dependent on them responding to Christ or us. We love them with no strings attached. That's true in TDS. We follow up, we care for them, we thank them with no strings attached, whether they give another dime. But if we win their heart, we've got their wallet. I know that sounds weird, but you know what I'm saying. And they may add a zero and then become a hero. The TDS chair needs to be organized, good at delegating, relatively good with numbers, creative. You can think of whatever you want to add to that. Add it to yours. One of the goals is to retain the donor base. And I think I told you earlier that, it was either this weekend or last weekend I said it, but I don't remember, so just tell me. Did I say that we lose 50%? I said that? Yes. Okay. We lose 50%. I'm going to say it again. I'm doing it. We lose 50% of our donors every year. And again, listen, some people might give $20 to a kid who's trying to raise money and they're doing a walk-a-thon or whatever. And so a good chunk of that 50% is, okay, whatever. But a good chunk of that 50% we shouldn't be losing either. And I think it's because we have to do a better job of doing Young Life with them. So the plays to retain the donor base would be a gather the donor list. This would be your TDS chair, right? Gather the donor list and put all the givers in a priority 1 through priority 4 ranking. You never hand the numbers out to the committee. That is not important to you. All you do is put them, and you don't even really have to hand them out by priority, but the priority 1, you'll probably have a little bit different plan for it because these people are given significantly. You might send them flowers. You might do this with a note. It might be a personal phone call. Might be, I don't know. A lot of the ladies do the thoughtful stuff because they're way better at it than I am. I just like to pick up the phone and say thank you. That's my thing. So find out whatever your strength is when you're thanking them. But then you want to go through each priority, 1 through 4, and thank people. Just update them, thank them with an update, right? Thank them with an update. Very simple. Everybody can do that. I said it before. No one ever stopped giving to Young Life because they were being thanked too much, right? So let's take advantage of it. It builds the relationship. It builds the trust, and they get to hear what difference their check is making. No other ministry will probably do that with a phone call. Some will send a piece of mail that we usually just drop right in the circular file, but let us be the ones that do the personal touch to say, here's what difference your mite made on our area and on our kids. Determine how you want to plan, thank them, execute the plan by delegating names to the committee members. By the way, I did this assignment, so you just gonna have to trust me. I said, okay guys, we're gonna do new TDS. How many, raise your hand in the room, not you, but my committee. Raise your hand if you guys would like to make some calls so we can ask for more money to build more. Not one hand, not even the guilty type A put the hand up. And then I said, okay, that was a plan. Forget that. We're going to change TDS to thanking donors. We're going to do a thank with an update. I don't want you to ever ask for money. We'll do that at the banquet. We'll do that at the end of the year. We have certain times for asking for money and for them to increase that amount, okay? We can do that one-on-one at one point during the year. And I don't care what the TDS manual says, okay, because I think that was written by a bunch of corporates that aren't on the front lines enough. All right, so we're going to do that. Now, who would like to call and say something simple like this? Hey, thank you so much for what you gave to Young Life last year. Because of that, we took 40 or 50, whatever kids to camp, and we found out just now that about 10 of them gave their lives to Christ. You're literally changing the area in ways you'd never imagine because of your gift. I just call and say thank you. Now, can anybody do that? I'm not kidding. I mean, every hand went up. I can do that. I can thank somebody. I'm good at thanking people. And so get used to doing stuff like that. Everybody, I'm not going to tell you that everybody should be on, and I'm going to mandate everybody to be on the TDS. But I would encourage you to be involved with the TDS chair in thanking the donors. Okay? Hey, come on in, guys. Any questions there?
Yeah, I don't see anything about sort of connectivity with the high net worth people, corporate market, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of think that way for this role.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think that's wrong, or do you just think it's just
No.
crucial?
And if you look on this page, there's probably room for that. So it again, that one doesn't scratch my itch. So this all came about from what scratched me. You know what I mean? So if you're thinking, Moose, I'm a corporate guy. I think I could connect with some corporate people. Make that a goal. You're not looking.
I'm sorry. It was his fault.
I'm giving you great stuff here, man.
I think you were trying to point out that you had done something.
I have put that in there. See?
It was something.
I don't know, maybe I should read
That's
this.
what we're saying.
No, but I know what you're saying, and you could make that a goal, and then figure out what the plays would be to achieving, getting X amount of corporate, whatever it is that you're thinking. Add that to that play. Add that to the TDS position. See what I'm saying? So don't just think because it's not on here, it shouldn't be on there. It's just, I'm one person. See, PE major, man. Basket weaving and ballroom dancing. That's what you're going to get here. You got better minds than me, so use them. All right? Add to it if you have to. But I appreciate the question. And that's true of every position, okay? Teach the TDS playbook. Regularly remind committee, this is the TDS chair's job, of the ease of which it is to thank people. Tell stories about how that's working. I mean, isn't it great when you hear Cheryl, where is she? Was it Cheryl?
Shelley,
Shelley, where is she?
over here.
Yeah, listening to you share your testimony, your story, we're moved by it. Tell stories. It doesn't matter if it's about money, TDS, kids, leaders, parents, tell the stories. Tell the stories. That's what changes people. In my mind, it changes me at least. I'll speak for myself. And tell the stories of how TDS, I just told you one. Now every time I call, he said, hey, Moose, what do you need? Nothing. I just call to say thanks. That's a story. That probably made some of you go, huh, that's pretty cool. I never thought of that, but that makes sense. But if I didn't share that story, we wouldn't walk away with that. Track the donor base. This is probably TDS 101 that all you TDS guys or gals or whoever are probably doing. But track your donor base, and your area director can get you approved to access the Young Life website, so you can do that. And then I said have a spreadsheet without giving amount. Now the TDS chair needs to know the amounts, but that's it. Maybe the committee chair, and definitely the area director probably wants to know that too, so they know how to do thank you mailings or whatever. But the committee at large doesn't need to know numbers. Do we all agree about that? Mm-hmm. So, but the TDS does, and that's that's privileged information that only you know. But you need to know that. But do have a spreadsheet that you give out to people that shows no amount, just that they are givers, so they know how to thank them. And for your area director, make sure you have as many phone numbers as you can. Obviously, you have the address because it's on the check, but get phone numbers too, so you can make those phone calls and thank people. All right, and so on is basically the rest of it. The golf thing. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have a golf tournament, it's there. The only thing I do is say just go ahead and skip to the staff and leader care. This is the last one that I have on here, and we'll end with this, and then we'll open it up to any more questions that you might have. Really, comments and feedback would be helpful too, because I do that everywhere I go so that I can improve this to make it better for the next region that I speak to. So, but staff and leader care, most people just do, hey, we have a leader care chair, but make sure you just take the simple addition and add staff to that. They need it too. And particularly the staff spouse. I think I shared that with you 2 years ago. One of the loneliest positions in a Young Life area is typically the staff spouse, right? The one area director's out doing their thing night after night with kids and everything, and usually you have a staff spouse at home who moved from another area. They have little kids at home, and they don't have normal conversations with adults, and it's awfully lonely. And so it's an opportunity for us as owners and shepherds of the area to walk alongside them and to care for them and to love on them and to let them know we're with you and we love you and we want to babysit for you so you and your husband or you and your wife can go out to dinner. And you know what? We're not going to charge for babysitting. We're just going to do it. In fact, here's $20. Have at it. Chick-fil-A on us. Give us the change. But there are certain ways to do that, and that leader, that care, the staff leader care chair, didn't mean for that to rhyme, is one of the most important parts of the committee because they help us figure out how to love our staff and our leaders. So obviously the goals: take care of our staff and their spouses, adopt a leader. There's a lot of different ideas on here, and there's also plenty of room on here to add to it. I'm sure you guys have done different stuff. In fact, if you have, now would be a good time to share that because it might give some others ideas that may not be on here. But ways that you've loved and cared for your staff. It doesn't have to, the beauty is it doesn't have to be extravagant. It doesn't have to be revolutionary. It's just life on a life. It's the same way you'd want to be cared for. Has anybody done anything that's not on here that you feel like, hey, this is a good idea, y'all may want to run with this? This is what we do with our leaders. Yeah.
Our area director had his 10-year anniversary this year, and for our Christmas party, we had a special time to honor them. So we invited a bunch of people from their past.
That's great.
And people just got up and told stories and honored them. It blew them away. So it was a great lesson for them.
That's fantastic. Anytime you can honor your staff and your leaders, it promotes the virtue of longevity, of being in it for the long haul. You just can't, when you do stuff like that, you're impacting everyone. That's fantastic. Ed?
Yeah, just making available to them your resources that you have.
Yeah.
Your car, your vacation home, your time, like you said, with babysitting, things like that. But just saying what we have is yours.
Yeah.
When you need it, you let me know, and then do not be shy about asking.
That's right. And the Lord will honor everything you do. And I just want to say, look, I know we all come from different backgrounds in terms of income or whatever it might be. But if at all possible, never let your staff person pay for you when you go out. Always treat them and their leaders. If it hurts you, you know, suck it up. Because you're having an eternal impact. You just are. I love free stuff. When I was on staff, I remember getting a $200 gift certificate from an anonymous person on our committee. To this day I don't know. And you know, $200 is like a lot of money to me and my wife. And it blew us away. I'm not saying go get $200 gift certificates. Make it 500 because that was about 20 years ago. But my point is if at all possible, one way to love and care for them is treat them like you would your own. You'd never have your own kid pay for you to go out and have lunch, probably, right? I've thought of it. Maybe if they make more than you, but you know what? I make more than my dad. I never let my dad pay for me. That's my way of getting even, though, because he always paid for me. But that's different now. But there still are, you know, I'm talking about your staff leader. They're your kids. Does that make sense? Hey, listen, I've run out of my best stuff here, guys. If you're looking for more, you're going to be disappointed. But what I'd like to do, I gave this away 2 years ago. I wanted to give it away again. I essentially went through these notes, not number 2, but number 1 in my own way. If you see, this is a little updated best practices from A to Z. This is for your committee chairs. And it's just how to make a can't miss committee meeting. Now, there's no such thing as that. I just needed a catchy phrase, so don't be that impressed. So I changed it really to best practices from A to Z. But it's just a little way to, as a committee chair, to look at your committee meetings as a Young Life Club. To make it fun, to make it meaningful, to make it life-giving. Have a perfect balance between business and small group. You know, where we're growing in the Lord and we're rallied around Christ, but we also are getting some business done. Have a good, you know, sometimes you're too business, we might be too business heavy, right? You've been to those meetings, you're looking at your watch. Can't wait for this to be done. And then you're at those meetings where it's like, man, I feel like I don't want to leave. I want to just hang out and have dessert and just chit chat. This is great. It's family. So, you know, go through some of that's a little gift to you. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. You may still have it from 2 years ago. The other thing I was going to share is understand as people who lead this, go to this page right here. It says, what are Young Life's core competencies? This is the other thing that I'm real big on, because I think you all, especially you new folks, need to learn need to understand how to communicate what Young Life's core competencies are, which core competencies is just a fancy term for what are we good at that we don't get enough credit for, okay, in a business sense. But in a ministry sense, what are those things that Young Life is great at, but maybe people in our community don't know? Maybe people in our church, they don't know much about. So when you're with people, you need to understand, number 1, Young Life is the best ministry in the world at reaching unchurched, disinterested kids for Jesus Christ. True or false? Furthest out, pagan kid, captain of the varsity pagan team right here. I wouldn't be here today if my Young Life leader didn't come to my school Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and invest in me under the inspiration of Jesus Christ, of course, and His Holy Spirit, right? But I'm here today because of that. And I know if He can reach me that is true. So that's a core competency of Young Life. If you have people in your area that don't know much about Young Life, you just tell them, you know, one of the things that we focus on is kids who would never come to church. That's the kid we're trying to reach. And Young Life has figured it out. And we use Jesus' model, which I read in the first session. And I'll end with that. Matthew 9:35 through 38, it says, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. When He saw the crowds, He had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then He said to His disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into His harvest field. And that is our number 1 core competency. The rest of them are there for you to read. Are there